In the year 1843, a man was born who, in the course of his lifetime, would touch and transform the lives of millions. His name was Russell Herman Conwell. He first became a lawyer, then a newspaper editor, and eventually a clergyman. One day, a small group of young boys came to Dr. Conwell at his church with a simple request. They asked if he would be willing to teach them college-level courses. They longed for an education, but lacked the money to pay for it. Dr. Conwell told them he would do whatever he could. As the boys walked away, a quiet thought began to take shape in his mind. Why, he wondered, should there not be a fine college for poor but deserving young men? The idea ignited a spark within him, and he went to work immediately. Almost single-handedly, Dr. Conwell raised $7 million and founded one of the world's leading universities. He gathered this great sum by delivering more than 6,000 lectures across the country, and in each one, he told a simple yet powerful story known as Acres of Diamonds. The story told of an African farmer who heard tales of neighboring settlers becoming wealthy by discovering diamond mines. These stories so stirred his imagination that he sold his farm to set out in search of diamonds himself. He wandered over the vast African continent for the rest of his life, searching in vain for the precious stones that brought such fortune in the markets of the world. Finally, overcome by despair, broken and hopeless, he threw himself into a river and drowned. Meanwhile, the man who had purchased his land discovered a curious and unusual stone lying in a stream that ran through the property. That stone turned out to be a magnificent diamond of tremendous value. Soon he uncovered many more and realized the entire farm was covered with them. It became one of the richest diamond mines in the world. The first farmer had owned, quite literally, acres of diamonds, yet he had sold them for almost nothing, in order to search for them elsewhere. Had he taken the time to study, to prepare himself, to understand what diamonds look like in their natural form, and had he fully explored the ground beneath his own feet, he would have discovered the fortune he sought was already his. It was this truth that so deeply impressed Dr. Conwell, and, in time, millions of others, each of us, at this very moment, is standing in the center of our own acres of diamonds. If only we develop the wisdom and the patience to intelligently and thoroughly explore the work in which we are now engaged, we will usually find that it contains the riches we are seeking, whether they are material or intangible, or both. There is nothing more tragic than a person who drifts through life, moving from one thing to another, forever chasing a distant rainbow and never remaining in one place long enough to uncover the treasure already within reach. Whatever your goal may be, the pathway to it may already lie hidden within the work you are doing right now. The average person believes that some businesses are superior to others, when in reality there are no bad businesses. There are only people who have not yet learned how to recognize the opportunity within their own field. Whatever our occupation may be, it is our business. We are its manager. If we see no future in it, the fault is not always in the work itself, but often in our limited vision. A farmer once placed a tiny pumpkin into an empty jug. As the pumpkin grew, it expanded until it completely filled the container and could grow no further. When the farmer finally broke the glass, he had a pumpkin perfectly shaped to the size of the jug. In the same way, many of us place ourselves inside invisible containers that restrict our growth. But it is not the job, the company, the economy, or the times that confine us. We do it to ourselves. Those who rise to greatness in their work are the ones who see their occupation as an opportunity for expansion and self-development. They prepare themselves for the chances that appear every day. Preparation is the master key. By becoming exceptionally competent at what we are doing now, we compel opportunity to seek us out. It takes imagination, creative imagination, to understand that diamonds do not appear as diamonds in their natural state, and that a pile of iron ore bears little resemblance to finished steel. Yet hidden opportunity surrounds us in every aspect of our present work. To begin the discovery of your own acres of diamonds, cultivate what might be called intelligent objectivity, the ability to step back and observe your position as a fascinated outsider might, an outsider who would gladly trade places with you. Begin by studying the industry to which your work belongs. Learn its history. Ask yourself, how did this industry begin and why? Who founded it and when? What is its annual value? How rapidly has it grown during the past 20 years? What is its projected growth in the next 10? Become a student of your field. Within 5 years or less, you can become a recognized authority, and it is the expert who writes his own future. Studies show that most people view their job as an ending rather than a beginning. They fail to see how desperately a growing and expanding industry needs the uncommon individual, the person who prepares, who thinks, who acts. This is the person it will richly reward. Those who do not grow are not standing still, they are moving backward. Ask yourself this: do I know as much about my job and my industry as a good doctor knows about medicine or a good lawyer about the law? That is the standard you should set. To become a true professional in a world of amateurs is more enjoyable, more rewarding, and far more secure. The professional can weather any storm in a vessel constructed of knowledge and preparation. To rise above the average, study 3 essential subjects. First, your company and the industry in which it operates. Second, your present position and the next step up. And third, people, for your success will be largely determined by your ability to understand and serve others. Build over time a personal library devoted to these subjects. A helpful bookseller can guide you. Often, a single insight is all that's needed to bring about a remarkable transformation, a reminder of something you once knew but forgot. Perhaps this sounds like a great deal of effort. It is. But it is exciting work, and it brings rich rewards, security, confidence, and a life of purpose. 1 hour a day, devoted to study and thoughtful reflection, can completely change your future. Look for ways to expand your contribution to your company, your industry, and the people you serve. As you do, you will notice your world beginning to change. For as a person sows, so shall he reap. And this law applies in the home just as it does in the marketplace. The moment you adopt this attitude, you join the top 5% of the world's population. You remove yourself from competition because you are no longer competing, you are creating. You are shaping life rather than merely reacting to it. You become a giver, and life rewards givers. By thinking and acting this way, you take care of 2 essential elements of success. First, you become more interested and enthusiastic about your work, and enthusiasm is contagious. Second, you are quietly and steadily building financial security that can last a lifetime. So hold on to this thought: both on and off the job, within your present work lies a hidden opportunity capable of bringing you everything you desire for yourself and your family. It will not wear a sign that says, "Opportunity." It will be disguised in ordinary form, just as a simple hairpin led to the invention of the paperclip, or a dirty drinking glass gave birth to the paper cup. And finally, remember these guiding principles. If we develop the patience and wisdom to explore our present work with intelligence and purpose, we will almost certainly uncover the riches we seek. Before we run in search of greener pastures, let us realize that our own field may be unlimited. There are no bad jobs, only undeveloped vision. Let us avoid placing ourselves in limiting containers. Only preparation enables us to seize tomorrow's opportunities. Put imagination to work in improving what you are doing now. Learn everything you can about your job and your industry. Since your industry can grow without limit, so can you. The world rewards the rare and prepared individual. Build your personal library. Dedicate 1 hour daily to growth. And above all, never forget the lesson of the acres of diamonds. At this very moment, whether you see it or not, you are standing in the middle of your own acres of diamonds. The opportunities you are seeking are not in some distant land or future position. They are hidden within the work you are doing, the people you know, the place you are in. All value begins with awareness. When your perception changes, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Diamonds do not look like diamonds in their raw state, and opportunities rarely announce themselves. Only the prepared mind can recognize greatness in common form. It is not luck that creates success. It is study, practice, and disciplined improvement applied consistently over time. 3. There are no small or bad jobs, only undeveloped vision. It is not your position that limits you, it is the way you think about it. A so-called small job handled with intelligence, imagination, and excellence becomes a gateway to greater things. The world does not reward titles, it rewards value. Too many people abandon their field in search of greener pastures, failing to realize their own soil is rich beyond measure. True growth does not come from running away, but from digging deeper where you stand and committing yourself fully to mastery. The instant you focus on contribution rather than comparison, you rise above the crowd. You stop competing and begin creating. And when you create, life itself begins to work in your favor, because it always rewards those who serve, improve, and give more than is expected. At this very moment, whether you are aware of it or not, you are standing in the center of your own acres of diamonds. The floor beneath your feet, the desk in front of you, the modest task to which your day is currently devoted, all of it is filled with unseen potential, quietly waiting for recognition. Most people spend their lives looking beyond the horizon for opportunity, convinced that success exists somewhere else, in some other city, some other job, some other season of life. And yet, the greatest truth is that opportunity is not hiding from them. It is simply unrecognized, disguised beneath the ordinary and the familiar. The human mind, unless trained otherwise, tends to overlook what it sees every day. It becomes blind to its own environment, deaf to the very signals that could lead it to growth, abundance, and fulfillment. You need only look around you to realize that history is full of people who overlooked their greatest possibilities because they believed they were too close, too common, too insignificant to matter. And so they abandoned the known for the unknown, the present for the distant, the certain for the imagined. They spent years chasing dreams in foreign fields, while beneath their very feet lay the seeds of achievement, waiting patiently for attention, care, and cultivation. The tragedy of the human story is not that opportunities are scarce, but that awareness is rare. The richest mine is not found in the mountains or beneath the oceans. It is found in perception, in the trained ability to see what others ignore. Everything around you right now holds a lesson, a doorway, a hidden invitation to growth. Your current position is not a prison, it is a platform. Your present circumstances are not a limitation, they are a laboratory. What you call routine, repetition, or monotony is often nothing more than a disguised classroom, offering you the chance to sharpen a skill, develop a strength, master a process, and quietly turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. But that can only happen when you decide to stop looking away and start looking deeper, when you trade dissatisfaction for curiosity and impatience for insight. The place where you are now is not an accident. You have been led here by every thought you have ever held, every decision you have ever made, and every belief you have ever accepted. And that same mind which has led you here also holds the power to transform this very place into the foundation of everything you desire to become. There is no need to wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect environment, or the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now, and the perfect place is where you stand. It is only your awareness that must evolve to match the greatness that is already within reach. Most people believe they need something new in order to grow. A new job, a new relationship, a new city, a new life. But growth has rarely been born from novelty alone. It is born from understanding. When understanding enters a familiar space, that space is transformed. When you begin to truly see, to truly listen, to truly engage with what is already yours, the world around you begins to reveal layers of meaning, pathways of progress, and doors that have always been open but never noticed. And each one of those doors leads not outward, but deeper into the immense, quiet, waiting potential that surrounds you right now. In this very place, in this very moment, where your own acres of diamonds stretch endlessly before you, the untrained eye looks at ordinary ground and sees only earth, stone, and dust, while the prepared mind looks upon the very same ground and recognizes a hidden fortune waiting to be revealed. Diamonds in their earliest form are rough, dull, and unimpressive. They bear no resemblance to the sparkling gems that command admiration and great price. And in the same way, opportunity rarely announces itself in a polished and obvious form. It often arrives disguised as routine, as challenge, as an overlooked responsibility, or as a problem that others are unwilling to solve. It is only the individual who has prepared himself, mentally, emotionally, and practically, who can recognize that this unremarkable moment contains the seed of something extraordinary. Preparation is the quiet work that takes place long before success is visible. It happens when no one is watching. It is the discipline to learn what others have refused to study, the patience to practice what others avoid repeating, and the determination to improve when there is no immediate reward. It is built in the early morning hours and the late silent evenings when the world sleeps and the uncommon individual sharpens his mind. Every book read, every skill refined, every error corrected becomes part of a growing inner vision. A vision that begins to separate what is valuable from what is meaningless, what is promising from what is ordinary. Without preparation, the mind drifts, moving from one day to the next, guided by circumstance and chance. But through preparation, something remarkable begins to happen. The mind develops clarity. It begins to recognize patterns before they fully form. It senses possibilities long before others are even aware of movement. What appeared invisible to the unprepared suddenly becomes obvious to the trained observer. Where one man sees an obstacle, another sees an opening. Where one sees repetition, another sees refinement. Where one sees monotony, another sees mastery and motion. This is why luck so often appears to favor the prepared. But what we call luck is nothing more than a moment of recognition meeting a mind that is ready. Opportunity is plentiful, but recognition is rare. And recognition is always a byproduct of knowledge. The world does not hide its treasures, it simply reveals them only to those who have developed the eyes to see and the mind to understand. The difference between common and uncommon people is not in the world they live in, but in the way they have trained themselves to perceive it. Preparation also builds confidence, Not the loud, boastful kind, but the quiet, unshakable confidence of one who knows he is ready. It removes fear of change because change becomes a welcome signal rather than a threat. It replaces hesitation with calm action and uncertainty with purpose. A prepared person does not wait for someone else to create an opportunity. He moves forward instinctively, guided by the deep understanding he has cultivated through continual growth. The tragedy is that most people spend their years waiting for a chance, thinking that when the right moment arrives, they will become ready. In reality, readiness must come before the moment. The opportunity always arrives disguised, and it stays only briefly. It can be recognized only by the one who has already done the work to understand its value, the one who has trained his perception to see greatness where others see nothing more than another ordinary day. Most people move through life believing that certain positions are beneath them, that certain tasks are insignificant, that certain kinds of work are somehow unworthy of their time and talent. They label jobs as good or bad, important or unimportant, and in doing so they quietly condemn themselves to limitation. But the truth is something very different. A job, in and of itself, has no power, no potential, no future, and no destiny. It is neither great nor small. It is simply a field of possibility waiting to be shaped by the mind, the attitude, and the vision of the person who occupies it. It is not the position that determines the height a person can reach, but the depth of understanding and excellence he brings to that position. History again and again has proven that greatness is not reserved for those who begin in glamorous roles. It belongs to those who do ordinary things with extraordinary care. It belongs to those who refuse to be careless simply because the world has labeled their work as insignificant. The man who approaches a so-called small task with dignity, intelligence, imagination, and pride is already operating on a level far above the crowd. He is not serving the job, he is mastering it. And in doing so, he is preparing himself for greater responsibility long before it is ever offered to him. You may find yourself today in a position that appears to offer little promise. You may feel that your talents are greater than the work assigned to you. But before blaming the job, it would be wise to ask a far more important question. Have I truly outgrown this work, or have I simply outgrown my interest in doing it well? Very often what a person calls a dead-end job is simply a job that has never been fully explored, never been stretched, never been challenged to reveal its hidden potential. When you bring imagination to routine, routine dissolves. When you bring discipline to the ordinary begins to transform into the exceptional. Every kind of work on earth, no matter how humble, contains within it endless lessons in skill, leadership, patience, innovation, communication, and problem-solving. These qualities do not appear automatically. They must be drawn out through attention and deliberate effort. The janitor who studies efficiency, the clerk who studies organization, the laborer who studies process, the assistant who studies leadership is quietly building a foundation that the world will one day recognize as uncommon, not because the job itself was remarkable, but because the person made it so. Those who truly rise in life are not the ones who are constantly looking for a better job. They are the ones who are constantly becoming better at the job they have. They understand that every task is a training ground, every responsibility is a classroom, and every day is an opportunity to increase their value. And when their value has grown beyond their current position, the world has a curious way of responding. Doors begin to open. New paths begin to reveal themselves. Offers begin to appear, not as rewards for ambition alone, but as natural consequences of competence, reliability, and vision. A so-called bad job is nothing more than a job being handled by a mind that has not yet discovered its power. Change the way you think about your work, and the nature of the work itself begins to change. Change your attitude, your standards, your level of care, and you will be astonished at how much room for growth appears where there once seemed to be none, how many possibilities begin to emerge from what was once considered nothing more than another ordinary, limited, unimportant place to spend the day in exchange for a living wage. Too many people respond to discomfort by turning away, by looking over the fence and convincing themselves that growth must exist somewhere else, in some other place, under some other set of circumstances. They begin to believe that advancement lies in escape, that progress requires a complete change of environment, that fulfillment can only be found by abandoning what is familiar, and so they move from one path to another, leaving behind half-developed abilities and unrealized potential, not realizing that true growth is rarely the result of removal, but of expansion. A tree does not become tall by uprooting itself and searching for better soil. It becomes tall by driving its roots deeper into the ground where it already stands and drawing greater nourishment from the very earth that first sustained it. The instinct to flee is natural, but it is often misguided. When the mind encounters difficulty, resistance, or boredom, it interprets it as a signal to quit rather than a challenge to deepen understanding. Yet every worthwhile achievement in life is built upon the ability to stay, to persist, to explore, and to develop mastery where others see only limits. The ground on which you stand today may not look promising, but it is only because you have not yet learned how to work the soil effectively. Richness lies not in the ground itself, but in the one who learns how to cultivate it. There is a remarkable transformation that takes place when a person stops running and starts committing. Instead of scattering his energy in many directions, he concentrates it in one place. Instead of endlessly beginning again, he continues the work he has already started at a deeper level. He learns the subtlety of his field, the hidden patterns of his work, the unspoken needs of the people around him, the problems that go unnoticed by the casual observer, and in that depth of understanding, he begins to see openings that were invisible before. What once felt like a limitation now becomes a doorway. What once seemed tedious now becomes meaningful. Depth always reveals what distance conceals. The grass only appears greener on the other side because it has been watered differently, tended differently, seen from afar. But the moment you start watering your own ground with care, study, imagination, and persistence, it too begins to change color. It comes alive. And with each passing day, as you invest more of yourself into your chosen field, you begin to grow with it. Skills multiply, vision expands, confidence strengthens. The very circumstances that once felt restrictive begin to stretch outward, making room for you to rise. Expansion requires courage of a different kind, the courage to remain, to face the frustration, the repetition, the slow progress, and to trust that something valuable is forming beneath the surface. Escape gives temporary relief, but commitment creates permanent transformation. The person who continues to dig deeper, think deeper, serve better, and learn more where he already stands is the person who eventually strikes the hidden source of power that changes everything, not because he searched farther, but because he stayed longer, observed more carefully, and believed that the future could be shaped from the present through focused, deliberate, unwavering dedication to the place that had quietly been offering him growth all along, waiting only for his decision to expand rather than to run, to become rather than to wander, and to discover that what he had been searching for in distant places had, in truth, been forming patiently beneath his own feet, asking only for his attention, his effort, his vision, and his willingness to remain and grow within the very moment and position that had once seemed so small, so ordinary, and so easy to abandon in search of something he believed was greater somewhere else, but had always been meant to uncover by staying exactly where he was and giving more of himself than he ever had before to what already belonged to him in this life. When you decide, consciously and deliberately, that your primary purpose is to create value rather than to compete, a remarkable transformation begins to take place within you. Up until this point, you may have measured yourself according to the achievements of others, comparing your progress, your position, your income, your recognition, and finding yourself in a constant, exhausting race that has no finish line because it is based not on your own potential, but on someone else's results. Comparison is a thief, and it robs you not only of peace, but of originality. The world is already filled with copies, with echoes, with people attempting to imitate what has already been done, and yet there is a shortage of one essential element, contribution that is uniquely yours. The moment you shift your attention away from the scoreboard and towards service, your entire path opens in front of you, because value is not measured in rivalry, it is measured in usefulness, in impact, in improvement added to the lives of others. There is no competition for the person who is committed to excellence, because excellence is a personal standard, not a comparative one. When a craftsman focuses on creating the finest work he is capable of producing, he is no longer concerned with who stands next to him. His standard is internal, rooted in self-discipline, integrity. In that moment, effort becomes art, work becomes purpose, and purpose becomes power. People do not rise because they push others down, they rise because they lift the quality of everything they touch. Value is a form of influence, and influence cannot be taken by force. It must be earned through consistency, through character, through an unbreakable commitment to improvement. The world rewards the person who gives more than is expected, not because the world is kind, but because it is logical. Value attracts opportunity just as surely as light attracts the eye. When you become someone who makes things better, who solves problems, who adds clarity, who brings strength to weakness and direction to confusion, you do not need to announce yourself. Your work speaks, and it speaks in a language that nowhere a summary could ever match. The average mind says, there is too much competition. The exceptional mind says, there is too much opportunity to contribute. And between those two statements lies the difference between a life of limitation and a life of abundance. As you increase your knowledge, refine your skill, and strengthen your character, you begin to move onto a higher frequency of performance. At that level, you do not encounter crowds because few are willing to pay the price of true excellence. The path upward is not crowded. It is silent. It is demanding. It calls for early mornings, intentional thinking, endless learning, repeated practice, and an unbreakable belief that what you are building matters. This is not competition. This is creation. It is becoming. And when you become, the world adjusts itself accordingly, for it has no choice but to respond to value, to truth in action, to the quiet authority of someone who has decided to give more, to be more, to bring more into every moment, every task, every relationship, until contribution itself becomes a way of life and your very presence begins to elevate the world around you. Not because you seek power, but because you have discovered the secret that power is not found in comparison, but in contribution to others who need what only you can provide through the unique combination of your experience, your thought, your discipline, and your unwavering decision to make a difference where you stand right now, in this very moment, midst ordinary circumstances that become extraordinary through the simple but rare commitment to value creation without limit, without apology, without retreat, and without ever again needing to look sideways to measure your worth against another human being who is walking an entirely different path shaped by different desires, different fears, different dreams, and different potential that does not define yours in any way whatsoever as you continue forward in the quiet certainty that when value is your mission, success becomes the natural byproduct of who you are becoming every single day through the act of giving more life to the world than you take from it through your thoughts, your actions, your words, and the standard you refuse to lower even when no one is watching and nothing seems to change yet, and still you persist, knowing that the seeds of value planted in silence always grow into results that speak louder than any form of competition ever could. You are not here by accident, and the life you desire is not locked away in some distant place, reserved for someone else with greater advantages, greater connections, or greater luck. Everything you need to begin is already within your reach, hidden in ordinary hours, familiar faces, routine work, and unnoticed moments that hold extraordinary potential. The world has never withheld opportunity. It has only waited for someone to recognize it, to respect it, and to cultivate it with purpose, patience, and faith in personal growth. You were never meant to imitate another life, follow another path, or measure your worth by someone else's progress. You are here to develop what has been given to you, to take raw potential and shape it into value through thought, discipline, service, and the brave decision to dig where you stand instead of wandering endlessly in search of better ground. The moment you choose awareness over ignorance, preparation over excuse, depth over escape, and contribution over competition, your entire world begins to respond in quiet but powerful ways. Success is not a distant event, a lucky break, or a sudden reward. It is the natural outcome of seeing clearly, thinking correctly, working intelligently, and living with intention. When you commit to becoming more today than you were yesterday, to giving more than is required, and to walking your path with integrity even when no one is watching, you step into a level of existence that cannot be touched by doubt, comparison, or fear. The soil beneath your feet is rich beyond measure. The diamonds are already there. And from this moment forward, the only question that remains is how deeply you are willing to dig to reveal the greatness that has always been yours to claim.